Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Gregory, and I'm the CEO of the Australian Jewish Association. Welcome to everyone watching tonight on Zoom or on Facebook, or to those listening to the replay on J-Air Community Radio or on YouTube. It's my great honor to introduce our guest tonight from the Nachala movement, Daniella Weiss, the founder and a prominent leader in Judea-Samaria, and Lital Slonim, Public Relations Director. Tonight's topic, the rights of Jews to live in Gaza, is a very important one. We know there is a lot of support for this idea in Israel. AJA does not have a position on this issue, but we do think it's an important topic worthy of discussion. It might not surprise you that we've had some far-left extremist attempts to censor tonight's talk, as we sometimes get, but we don't give in to bullying, and we'll continue to hear speakers from a range of perspectives. Now, I'm going to put our speakers' biographies in the chat, so everyone please have a read, and we're very honored to have them. So over to our speakers.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
So thank you, first of all, to AJA for the important work that you're all doing and for having this opportunity for us to speak here. And, you know, one of the big issues that I think from the 7th of October, I always say that after the 7th of October, every Jew, never mind where he live and what he did in this morning, but we all change, right? We all change, and what we suffer in the 7th of October as a nation was something that shocked all of us and changed all of us. One of the, maybe the strongest point that we are dealing today in Israel, and there is a big discussion in the public in Israel and in the Jewish nation all over the world, is what will be the future, how we can prevent something like the 7th of October from happen again, chas v'chalila, and how we can make sure that the nation that are surrounding us will get a clear message that it's not smart step for them to attack us. Now, we can say that maybe the basic issue in this is how can we make sure and how can we bring security to Israel. With your permission, I will show also a PowerPoint. Can you see, everyone see it on the screen? Just
Yes, we can, Lital.
Very good, thank you. So, you know, one of the things that there is a big discussion is what will be the future in Gaza. When we are coming to discuss about this, we need to learn from the three main models that we have in the mind about how can we bring security to Israel. One of the things that we tried, one of the models, the attitude that we tried was what Israel did in 2005 when the government decided to leave the Gaza Strip. There was communities, Gush Katif, 21 communities in the Gaza Strip, and the government decided to evacuate them and to leave the Gaza Strip. And the idea was that let's separate from the Arabs, that we will be in our place, that they will be in their place, and we will have quiet and peace.
And they will develop the Gaza area that you see here on the map to be the word went, it will be like Singapore.
Exactly. This was the dream and the hope of some people. And I think that after the 7th of October, but also even earlier, we saw that this attitude failed because shortly after Israel left Gaza, we already start to have
shelling, rockets
and missiles all the time on Israel, exactly. But after the 7th of October, I think it's clear that this dream that we can go out and the Arab will leave us alone and it will give us security and quiet, it's only a dream, and we saw what's happened. The second model of how to bring security to Israel is through an army control, right? Some people today in Israel and some nations outside of Israel are pressing on the Israeli government to have an army control to ensure the security needs of Israel to prevent something like the 7th of October again. Now, this attitude also we tried in Israel in the past, in Lebanon, in the south of Lebanon, and also America tried it in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We know that to have an army control for long term, it's something that it's not possible. We know that very quickly the price come to be very high. If every time that the army wanna move on and drive on the road, it's very dangerous. You're paying very high price in people's life, and the pressure from the nation increasing to live out. Why we need it? Why should we have an army there? And then we saw it that from history. We learned that an army control can long only for short term. Now, the third model that how to bring security is what we have today in Yehuda and Shomron, in Judea and Samaria. In Judea and Samaria, like we see here in the map that I'm showing you on the screen, we see how central is Yehuda and Shomron, right here in the middle, that we call it the heart of Israel, have a border with Jordan. And in Yehuda and Shomron, the only reason that the Arabs cannot get to a power and a position like the Arabs in Gaza did get, it's because there is more than 500,000 Jews that living in Yehuda and Shomron, and another
the coastal strip and Tel Aviv and Haifa and Ashdod.
Exactly. We can see here on the map the distance between Ben Gurion Airport to Judea and Samaria, what's called the West Bank. It's only 4 miles and 11 miles from Tel Aviv. So when you see this map and you see those distance, it's very clear that if this area of Judea and Samaria was under Arab control, like the Gaza Strip, without any presence of families and communities, so this there was no reason, and we can say even not a chance, that they would do the same exactly like what Hamas did in the Gaza. We know it because they educate the kids about this. We know that from the 7th of October that the Palestinian Authority cooperate with Hamas, and some of the terrorists that their body was found in the kibbutzim in Gaza got salary from the Palestinian Authority. So we know that they are cooperating. We know that the education system is the same, and they're all dreaming to come back to Yerushalayim, to Yafo, to Haifa. They are not stopping, not in Gaza and not in Judea and Samaria. But this model of having communities, of having Jewish life, actually prove himself and succeed. Because we see that the only reason that today in Tel Aviv we don't have tunnels that coming from Yehuda and Shomron, it's because we are there, the people, the families, the communities, and then the army is there all over. And the army had the reason to be all over, and it's actually something that can hold and actually bring security and safety to all the area. Now, Nachala movement is a movement that dealing with establishing new communities all over Yehuda and Shomron, Judea and Samaria, also in the Galil. We are dealing, and now after the 7th of October, and this is our subject for today, we also dealing with establishing and resettle the Gaza Strip, that also there will be a Jewish life, and even if we will not look on the Gaza Strip from the historical aspect, that we had a strong Jewish presence through more than 3,000 years through our history.
That we were forcefully evacuated from the city of Gaza in 1929, when there was a massacre in Hebron, and there was a threat of immediate massacre of the Jews of Gaza, and we were evacuated. So if we judge things in universal terms, in human terms, moral terms, we are to return to the place from where we were forcefully evacuated, let alone the 2005, which you mentioned.
Yes, but I'm sure that some of you hearing this, that we are speaking on resettling the Gaza Strip, and asking yourself, does it really possible? I mean, we said we do have roots and history and strong connection to this place, and we spoke about that the only model from the 3 main models that Israel tried them all. The only model that succeeds is through settling the place and creating a Jewish life and presence in the area. But still, there is many difficulties. So in this point, I want to talk about how we can influence and create government policy, because we all know that Israel is a very strong state in the Middle East, and we are under government and the Jewish state under a lot of pressure, strong pressure from all over the world. Now, I want to give you an example how when we are saying that all of us together can actually create a new policy in the government and help the government to fulfill this aim, we can learn from example what we are doing in Yehuda and Shomron. What you see here on the screen, this is a community called Eviatar in the heart of the Shomron, and we established this place in 1 month. It was after a terror action. A guy named Yuda Guetta was murdered, and in the main junction there, we established a new community. When we establish this place, we combine 3 main things that we know that we learn also from history, because this is a Zionist system, we can say, that worked through all over the years.
It's a proven system.
Yeah,
That success.
That if we are creating strong facts on the ground, to be pioneers, to have families that moving to those mountains with basic conditions, but to combine this with public support and political support, you can create a strong change. You can see here on the screen, when we want to help the government and to create the right policy, we need to be brave enough to create strong facts on the ground, to establish places, to live under pioneer conditions, but we have to bring also strong public support and political support. That those 3 elements together can actually create a change. And this what's happened here in Eviatar when, this what's happened here in Eviatar when we established this place. In 1 month, we built this place, we paved roads, we built houses. It was a place with 50 families, but we also brought more than 100,000 people from all over Israel to come and to visit and to support. And we brought Knesset members and ministers, and we organized marches and rallies and many big events to create a public opinion that actually support and recognize this as an issue. Now, when we are coming here to speak today about the situation in Gaza, you know, we can say that after the 7th of October, in the beginning, people didn't have the courage to say now is the time to resettle Gaza, to come back to those part of our homeland. But now we can see that more and more people have the courage and the strength to say it. And more people understand that if we want to create all Israel safe, but of course the south, all the kibbutzim, all this,
and also Ashkelon, all the major cities of the south. It's not just the Gaza envelope, but if you want to see the safety of Ashkelon and the big port of Ashdod and Beersheba, all this, the huge cities, they must be protected. I mean, and they can be protected if Jews live in Gaza. We will relate to it.
Yeah. So after the 7th of October, our movement started immediately to prepare and to create groups of families. We have today more than 500 families that register that they are ready to move to establish new communities in the Gaza Strip. And we start to organize rallies and big events to create more and more public support to these issues. One of the things that we did, actually, it was less than 2 months ago, we organized a big rally in Binyonei Haoma in Yerushalayim. We brought more than 6,000 people to this rally and more than 10 ministers and 20 Knesset members. And this is something that we saw was a turning point, because until this big event that we did in the main hall in Binyonei Haoma in Yerushalayim, before this, people felt that thinking that this is the right thing to do to resettle Gaza, but they felt that they by themselves, that they are alone.
And that Gaza is associated just with Arabs, especially after the evacuation of 2005. But so we had to change this psychological state of mind. Gaza is Jewish.
Yeah. So I want to share with you a short video clip about this rally, and then we will continue.
אנחנו כאן כדי לומר אומץ, תנור, תנין, תדין, כל גוש קטיף, אנחנו חוזרים. אנחנו קוראים מכאן להנהגת האומה, תפסיקו להעלות רעיונות ובלבכם אתם יודעים שבהבל יסודם. לא חמאס, לא אש"ף משודרג, לא כוח בינלאומי, לאונר"א. רק עם ישראל מיישב את כל חבל עזה ושולט בכל חבל עזה. ויתור על צה"ל בישראל לא רק שאינו מביא ביטחון, אלא הוא גורם באופן ישיר לשפיכות דמים ביהודים. הניצחון זה השמדת אויבינו והקמתו לבנייה של חבל קטיף ושבו בנים לגבולם. הרבה מהקלטים
תמונה של פורנו.
שווים לשם עכשיו כלוחמים. אנחנו חייבים לדאוג שהם ישובו לשם בעזרת השם גם כמתיישבים כדי לשמור על ביטחון ישראל. ההנהגה נמצא תפקידה לקבל החלטות אמיצות. זה הזמן לחזור הביתה, זה הזמן לשוב לארץ ישראל, זה הזמן לנצח. היום יש לנו את ההזדמנות לקום ולבנות ולחדש ולהרחיב את ארץ ישראל. עכשיו ביחד נעשה וננצח. תנועת נחלה החלה בגיבוש גרעיני התיישבות. אני רוצה להזמין את נציגות גרעיני ההתיישבות המייצגות 6 גרעיני התיישבות ובהם מאות משפחות המוכנות בכל רגע נתון לעלות ולהתיישב בחבל עזה. אנחנו צריכים ליישב את כל מרחבי ארצנו בשלום לא נפסק על התיישבות, אלא בהרמת כבודה של האומה ועוצמתה הצבאית. רבותיי, לא לשתף בזה, כדי לשמר את ההישגים הביטחוניים שכל כך הרבה מלוחמינו חירפו את נפשם בשבילם. עלינו ליישב את עזה בכוחות ביטחון ומתיישבים שיעטפו אותם ואת הארץ הזו בהמון אהבה. ממשלת ישראל טעתה ב-2005. ממשלת ישראל יכולה לתקן ב-2024. אם אתה מאמין שיכולים לקלקל, תאמין שיכולים לתקן. התיישבות בארץ ישראל היא הניצחון, היא הביטחון והיא הגשמת חלום הזוהר של שיבת ציון. לכנס החשוב הערב הגיעו מנהיגי ציבור רבים אשר שותפים לקריאה להתיישבות בחבל עזה ובצפון השומרון. שעצם הגעתם למעמד הזה היום היא אמירה ברורה, ואליה תתווסף חתימה על אמנה הקוראת לניצחון בחידוש של התיישבות בחבל עזה ובצפון השומרון. לחזור ליישב את חבל עזה, כי אנחנו חושבים שזה הדבר הנכון, הצודק, המוסרי, הראוי וההכרחי. עשו הכל התמונות עזה, פשוט שמעו על האויביכם. הארץ אומרת, אתם לא שייכים אלינו. הארץ מחכה לנו, חברים צעירים, אני קורא לכולם מכאן. מי שיפנה את חבל עזה זה אתם. אתם תתיישבו, אתם תתנו שוב את היישוב בחבל עזה. אנחנו בוחרים עזה יהודית ובורחת. אנחנו ננצח, מדינת ישראל תנצח, ואנחנו נחזור לצפון השומרון ונחזור לחבל עזה שלנו. עם ישראל חי!
Okay, shall we
Okay,
proceed?
thank you.
Do you need anything else after you seeing this clip, after hearing Lital?
No.
Yeah, no, it was a very important talk, so thank you so much for that.
Of course.
Yeah.
I would like to bring things from a point of view of a person, I'm speaking about myself, who came to the mountains of Samaria, to the mountains of Shomron, almost 50 years ago, 50, many years. I came with 2 babies, and now I'm a great-grandmother of 7 great-grandchildren, all of whom are settlers in Judea and Samaria. Thank God. That was my dream, and this is the realization. I know the taste of having a vision, dreaming, and then putting fact on the ground and seeing the results on the ground. This is why actually I have to add that when we came to Samaria, we were 10 families. On the mountains around were called the Black Mountains of Judea and Samaria. And we started in little tents, in tiny tents, and then in tiny shacks, and then in prefabs, and then in trailers, prefabs. We went a long way. When we finished building one settlement, then our children continued to build another and another. So I know the meaning of trying to overcome and overcoming obstacles. And when we speak now of Gaza, and people ask me, you think it is realistic? So I'm telling people, and I'm telling you now, it is realistic, and I'm speaking in terms in my lifetime. I think that settling Gush Katif, settling the northern communities of Gaza, which shouldn't have been evacuated. For the evacuation of these communities was a big mistake from the start, and everybody understood that because it's very close to Ashkelon and Ashdod. Now, seeing that it is possible to dream and to realize, to make a dream a reality, I say to people the same thing we can do here in Gaza. And I want to mention something very important. When we came to Samaria, close to 50 years ago, to Hebron, to Beit El, and to Dumim, where we are sitting now, the center of Samaria, west of Sikhem, Shechem, Nablus, when we came, people did not believe that it was possible, but not only that. Actually, the reason we came was the result of the 6-Day War and then the Yom Kippur War, but the basic realization that this is the heartland of our biblical country. Now, Gaza is a part of the tribe of Yehuda. So when speaking of roots, of the basic understanding that Gaza is part of Eretz Israel and part of the area of the tribe of Yehuda, this is something that, I mean, no one can dispute unless one uses lies. But this is part of history. But I want to add another point in relation to Gaza. When we came here, it was indeed after wars, but nothing like the massacre of the 7th of October happened here. History, as Lital mentioned, and I agree with you, you are from your perspective and I from a much larger, longer perspective, that what happened in October changed life for every Jew in Israel and all over the world. When we are thinking in terms of return to Gaza, it's not just to the heartland of Israel as we turn here. It's not just part of the tribe of Yehuda. It's not just history. It is necessity, because the Arabs in Gaza are planning, and they say they are planning to do the same thing again with more brutality, and they expect it to be with more results for their sides. This is why when people ask me today, is it possible to settle Gaza? Is it possible? Do we have another option? Shall we leave it in the UN hands, in the international hands? Shall we leave it in improved PLO government or rule? Do people make sense? When people say to me, or to Lital, that we speak unrealistic things, even people dare say messianic things, what is messianic about it? one could say that my coming to the mountains was following our prophets. Here we come because it's our homeland, I mean Gaza, but it's necessary. I want to refer to two questions that might be raised, but maybe I make a promo to these questions that people ask me, what with the Arabs? We see wars all over the world, with war in Afghanistan, terrible war in Syria, wars all over. Now in Ukraine. Whenever there is a war, we see trails, we see people moving from these countries to other countries, to Turkey, we see in Ukraine, going all over Europe. People from Afghanistan went all over the world. Only the Gaza people.
Not only this, when there is a war, the world calling to all the countries to accept refugees, to open the gates to accept refugees, and only here when it's Israel fighting on her life after such a terrible threat that we had in the 7th of October, the world do the opposite and closing the gate and calling and saying that they will not accept refugees. And why?
So you can tell us the two ladies here, the young and the less young, younger. Or you can tell us, okay, you're analyzing a situation, but you're also posing, you're aware of the fact that the world is closing the gates of Gaza. So here we come and we say, when we were as a nation scattered all over the world, then we suffered persecution, pogroms, and people wanted to get rid of Jews. I mean, in many periods in history. Now we have a state. So what's the cause for anti-Semitism? Shall we start now a new webinar with understanding the roots of anti-Semitism? No, we are not going to do it today. It will be a special invitation if you're interested. The fact is that it is anti-Semitism against the state of Israel, because we deserve to be protected, fully protected. So what do we do with anti-Semitism? I think that once we show our confidence, and if we show that Gaza will be under Israeli army, and in the future also settled by Jewish settlements, then the world will understand that we are decisive. And if we impose pressure on the population in Gaza, we will first of all get the hostages, and then we will be able to settle the place. The Arabs will found roots. We mentioned Scotland, we mentioned Weiss.
Yes, Scotland, Daniella said, there is few countries that already announced that they are ready to accept refugees from Gaza.
Let them go there and let us live peacefully. The main point in connection with this analysis is we do not have any choice. If they say they will do it today, and they said it also before the 2nd of the Arabs, then we should be much more cautious, because they aim not only to annihilate Ashkelon, they aim at annihilating the state of Israel. And we should take it seriously, and we should sometimes government, and it happened in the history of the 76 years of our independence, that ministers like Golda Meir and Eshkol and others, they knew how to stand face to face with world leaders and say, no, we will not accept any stopping of a war, because we have the number one obligation to protect the only state the Jews have in the world, to protect the Jewish state. And I believe, as I saw so much success in my life in settlement and our movement and the movement of Gush Emunim before, which I headed, that when we dream and we want and we insist and we are dedicated and we believe, we see the blessing of God, and we see how our 10 families in Shomron, in Samaria, became now 250 settlements, 500,000 Jews. I was a teacher of 2 children. when we started 50 years ago. My daughter is now principal of a high school here of 1,000 students. God bless her. God bless Am Israel.
It's incredible. It's incredible to see the growth of Jewish population in Judea Samaria. Really beautiful. So a reminder to everyone who wants to ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll get to you. Just one question per person, and we may go to some new people as well. Just before we do, I wanted to ask you, so the polls, we know, well, I've seen some polls on mainstream Israeli sites in English, on the Jerusalem Post, on Times of Israel, showing, like, I think, surprisingly very high support for rebuilding Jewish communities in Gaza. Can you speak to what support is there, and what parts of the population is that support coming from?
First of all, you're right. There is many polls that were made from the 7th of October until today, and we see that the numbers are growing all the time. Even immediately after the 7th of October, the majority said that they are understanding that the right thing to do now is resettle in the Gaza Strip, but those numbers are growing all the time, and you can see it through the different polls that take place in Israel. And definitely the majority in Israel are supporting this. And I think it's very clear, and it's not only specific, it's not only religious people, not only young people, not only, I mean, it's from all the different...
Even the kibbutzim, they understand that if they don't have a full protection, I mean, safety,
yes.
So they cannot return, and they express it, although they belong, I would say, ideologically and politically, maybe more to the left side of the political map, but reality, and as I mentioned before, it's not religion, it's not just faith, it's not roots, it's the basic needs of life, of a nation.
Yes, and the rallies that I showed you, which we did in Binyanei Ha'uma, it's a strong example to see this support, because in time of war, more than 6,000 people came to participate in this rally, and more than 20 Knesset members and 10 ministers. So you can understand, and we're talking here on almost 2 months ago, this demanding and deep understanding is increasing all the time. We see it in the different layers. We see it also in with the soldiers that are fighting in Gaza now and losing their friends. They are turning to us and asking for us, please make sure that we are not fighting here for nothing. Please make sure that this will be the final fight, because from 2005, when Israel left the Gaza Strip, we entered there more than 7 times to fight. People died in this war. People paid in their life, in their health, and now so many soldiers are turning to us and asking from us, please help us, please make sure that now, and we are fighting here and we are ready to pay any price, but please make sure that it will not be for nothing. And the only way that this huge sacrifice of so many people now fighting in Gaza is if we will resettle the place. This is the only way that we can ensure for long-term our security.
And how do you answer the critics that say, well, America, the Biden administration won't be happy, the European Union, the United Nations? How do we answer those people?
Can you please repeat the question?
How do you respond to the critics that say that the Biden administration and the United Nations, the European Union, they'll put sanctions, they won't be happy, they'll make Israel an outcast?
Well, I wouldn't like to be a speaker of a spokesperson, either for Biden or for the UN. But I'm trying not to understand, but I'm trying to analyze what is standing behind the we cannot say that Biden or the United States is totally against Israel. This is not a true picture. I do see how Biden has to maneuver between his interests in the Arab world and his, I would say, interest in being a friend with Israel, which is the only democracy in this big Arab world. So he is doing this and this. And some people wrote here in Israeli papers that Biden has a problem with two states. They mentioned two states in the United States where he has to get support from his voters, not the two states, Israel and the Arab state. So it's a politics in the United States, politics in the Middle East, and I'm saying again, I feel strange as if I were a spokesperson for Biden, but I'm analyzing it. As for the UN, well, ladies and gentlemen, when in the history of the UN did they act right? Even I can give you an example which might be of interest to you, as we are settlers here in Samaria, and we hear how the UN have a report about settlers attacking Arabs. The truth is being revealed now, and it was in the last few days was revealed by a person from the extreme left in Israel who accompanied people who wanted to see how settlers attack Arabs. What did she discover? That the leftists force Arabs to bring their sheep into the into the Jewish settlement. She didn't believe her eyes. She withdrew with it. She said, "What did they do to me?" And this is the way they incite against settlers. What reason in the world do we have to take our Shabbat, the day of rest, Shabbat, and to provoke and to incite and to clash with Arabs? So the reports of the UN are a pile of lies. And we see it year after year. And I'm telling you, it's not just now. It's true that it became a very tough after the Gaza war, because the world senses, and here I reach a certain, I would say, certain territory, which I wasn't sure I will reach in this webinar. What is this thing that the world wants from the Jewish state? There was anti-Semitism and against individual Jews and individual Jewish communities. And now they are attacking the state of Israel, and they want to weaken us by leaving the Gaza monsters who threat to attack us to stay there. Why do we look for explanations when it is so clear that it is anti-Semitism? So how do we cope with anti-Semitism? We insist on our rights, on our will, and we insist that we came to Israel to live, and we will live. And if we have to come to a clash with the UN, with the United States, with Europe, we will fight for our freedom, for our independence, for our right to live as an independent Jewish state. Easy it is not, but when we are decisive, the world reacts to it with more respect.
Okay, now, before we go to the questions, I'm just going to give a very quick update about what's going to be happening next week. So just a reminder to everyone, if you're not already following AJA on social media, please do so. We're on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Make sure you're subscribed to the free email list. If you want to make a donation, you can also do that. Next week, we have a special Zoom. It's always a special Zoom with Josh Schron from Israel Hour, the radio host. And it's going to be a musical hug from Israel. So we'll be looking at some of the songs that have been released in the weeks after October 7, how the music's helping Israelis heal from the terrible tragedy. So it's going to be a bit of a different, hopefully an uplifting Zoom next week. Also, a special event for those people in Sydney. On Thursday, the 25th of April, from 4 to 6 p.m., we have two incredible pro-Israel guests. We have Brendan O'Neill, the editor of Spiked, and we have Shari Markson, Sky News host. So both Defenders of Israel. It'll be a special AJ event. It's going to be at a Sydney location, so the booking link is in the AJ email. Make sure you're receiving that, and also on our social media. So please do come along to that. It's $20 for members, $30 for non-members, and there will be light kosher for Pesach snacks provided. Okay, now coming to our questions. First up, we have Hugh. Would you like to ask your question?
Hello, Lital. It was good to meet you. It was good to meet you just over a year ago. But my question's actually for Daniella. You won't remember, but I visited you with a group in Kedemim in 2004, just
Why do you
before.
think I don't remember? Why do you
Well, you might.
insult me?
Well, you meet so many people. But I was with a group from Christian Friends of Israel here in the UK. And this was before the abandonment, but after it had been announced. And you told us about how you and Ariel Sharon and others had a vision to possess Israel's biblical heartland. And at that time, you had a break in your relationship with your longtime close friend, and you were very upset about that at the time. And I'm just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what happened that led to the abandonment of Gaza and the tragedy. And of course, some of the communities up near where you live were also abandoned. Can you tell us something about that time?
Okay. Thank you for reminding me of that meeting. Reminiscences of another period in my life. The happy news, as they say, is that we have returned to Homish, to the northern part of Samaria, and also the disengagement law was, most of it was cancelled. Thing which enabled us, the yeshiva and families return to Homish. To return to Homish is to return to the hill, which you know is overlooking a major part of the land of Israel, actually from Haifa to Ashdod and to Gaza. So this is good news. And relating to what Sharon went through, he said to me on a phone call when he called me to offer condolences for the murder of my son-in-law. And he said, I remember the day when I visited you in your trailer, when we just started the settlement in Kedemim, where we are now. It was at that time Elon Moreh, the name. And I remember that you read to me from the Bible, the promise of God to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And I was very much excited, and it was a special event. But you asked, so I am answering you. He said, I was התרחקתי מזה. I was removed. I went away from it, which was, I don't know why he said this. His purpose was to offer condolences, and it was a stab in my heart. He changed. I understand from this that his emunah, his faith, his loyalty to the deep roots wasn't strong enough. Maybe it was suitable for a certain period in the life of the nation, but not at a later stage. And I would not go into the endless analysis about whether it was personal interest, ambition, the trial that he had, the accusations, the charges, and all this. The fact of the matter is what he said to me. I went away from it. You read to me the verses from the psukim from the Bible. I was moved and I went away from it. So without emunah, without faith, without dedication to our history from its very start, current events can move a person. And this is what happened to such a big leader. who really betrayed the land that he so much loved.
Very sad.
Very.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Cohen. Would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Much. Going back further to the Balfour Declaration, it was made between Israel, the British, and the Arab League. And the reason why this occurred was the Arab League insisted that there was no such thing as a Palestinian people, and the negotiations had to be with that. But Israel took the gamble just to get things done after the war and everything. And that's when, despite all the haranguing now, the two-state solution was put into action. They got their Gaza a bit further down the track, but all of those areas, Gaza and the West Bank, were part of the United Nations Declaration of Israel. My feeling is Netanyahu or the Israeli government should annex both of those areas as part of Israel, because we tried the two-state solution. It's obvious it has not worked.
So what do you expect? What do you expect?
So
I think
I would like to see
today. Excuse me.
I would like to see the support for Israel taking over Gaza. It has every right to, and also in the West Bank.
Well, you expect a wish, a dream. I mean, we are doing our best to create the facts that this dream of yours and this wish of yours and this right thing that you express now will really happen. And we did it up till now, and we'll do it from now on, to see that every part of the promised land, every part of the land that was promised to us, to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, will be settled by Jewish communities. We do it step by step. If you're asking me or asking Lital why we don't do it faster, I can create a meeting between you and my husband in the other room. He asks me this question every day. He wants me to accelerate the rhythm of settling the land. At the same time, he wants me to stay home all the time. But we leave this to another Zoom meeting.
I think that one of the most important thing, if we do want to see the government have the courage and the strength to actually stand and achieve this achievement of resettling and have a full control on the Gaza Strip, it's in the end depending on each and every one of us. And when I'm saying this, it's actually starting in basic, even in the social media. Each and every one of us can be ambassador to this. Each and every one of us can speak about it, to stand with Israel, to stand in this demanding and supporting the government to resettle the Gaza Strip. And it's also when you are coming here to visit in Israel, we, for example, and I'm saying this with the permission of David Adler, that unfortunately is not with us today, but is a good friend, and we work hand by hand with the AJA many years already in the Nachala movement. But for example, we are having in the week of the Independence Day in Yom HaAtzmaut, in the middle of May, we're doing a mission, the Nachala, and we're bringing for a week, we will travel to visit in all the front lines points and communities in Judea and Samaria, and we will participate in a huge march that our movement is planning in the Independence Day in Yom HaAtzmaut. We are planning a huge march touring the Gaza Strip, and we will visit in the north and of course in the kibbutzim. But the reason that we are doing this is because we understand, like I spoke in the beginning of this webinar, that the key to succeed, to actually help the government to fulfill their missions and aim, is if we will create a very strong public support. And this is why, for example, to participate in missions like this, that demanding and meeting Knesset members and ministers and saying them and showing them the support that the Jewish communities in Australia, in America, in all over the world, supporting and giving the back to the government and the courage to the government to do it, it's something that helped the government and the leaders in Israel to actually have the courage to say it and to do it. And this is why to come and participate in missions like this and to come to visit and support and to be part of it, and each and every one of us can be ambassador to this, it's something that can be a very important key to the success of this process.
So I joined Lital with an offer, or I see your many participants in this webinar. Join the mission of the Day of Independence, and this will be a big support for the resettling of Gaza, Gush Katif, and all the other places in Gaza.
So one of the most
join us.
One of the most
Yes,
common
next question.
requests we get is from people that want to come to Israel and they want to take part in missions. They want to show solidarity. We know so many Australian Jews are going over to Israel. So many more want to. So what's the website? How can people find out more?
So
about
I will put here on the chat in a minute. I will put a link with the details. Okay.
Perfect. So put on the chat. Also, we have a lot of people watching on Facebook and other places. So I'll read out the link as well when you put it in.
Okay, no problem.
You see, your wish is our command.
Perfect.
You see how quickly it happens? 1, 2, 3.
You
Great.
see it on the screen, the link?
It's a complicated link. Okay, so everyone.
I know. What I will do as well,
nothing.
no, just a minute. I will put also the flyer, and then there is a barcode. So if people wanna scan it, it's also can be okay here. So now you have a barcode in the bottom, right? In the bottom, you will see it in a second. It's
Nothing will stop you from coming to Israel.
And it's something that I want you to know when we are bringing those missions. And you see my screen? Yes, people can screen the barcode here, and you see the date, and you have our email and our phone number. But I want you to know how strong influence those missions are having on the government, on Knesset members and ministers. Because in this meeting, you all meet Knesset members and ministers, and when they see the support of the Jewish nation, not only from Israel, that this support is coming from all over the world, it's giving them a lot of courage and strength then. Because in the end, we are all feel that we are represent the Jewish nation. And we need this support because the pressure that putting on the government in Israel from America, from all over the world is huge to stop the war and not to achieve a real victory, of course, not to resettle. And we need to make sure that the Jewish nation will stay strong in Israel. And we know that this is the only way to ensure this through resettling the place. And it starts from the partnership of each and every one of us.
All right, next up, let's go to Anne. Would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, guys. So set the context on Dr. Phil. They had I asked Robert this question. Musa Yusuf, the son of Hamas leader, and he was asked if Palestinians and Hamas are the same. He says yes. The vast majority of Palestinians support Hamas. If Israel reclaims Gaza, what's going to happen to the vast majority of Palestinians who support Hamas? Will they be deported into the West Bank of Palestine, or will they have to migrate to the borders of Egypt?
They will go to other countries. If they come to, don't even mention it. I mean, to think of the people, the murderers from Gaza coming to be our neighbors here. So first of all, they cannot be in one group because they have, one of the reasons that Egypt does not want to have them is because Egypt, with all its 80 million citizens, is afraid of the extreme Islam of the Gaza people, of Hamas. So they cannot be here. Egypt doesn't all of them want to have all of them together, but they can scatter all over the world, as we mentioned before. Scotland was first to offer to absorb them, let them be absorb them. Maybe Norway.
The world now want to invest billions to rebuild the Gaza Strip for the Arabs. Let's invest this money to encourage other countries that will agree to accept refugees from the Gaza Strip if they will get financial support for it. So the billions that the world are now ready to invest to build again homes for the Arabs, that under them will have again tunnels. And we know the Hamas already said that they will do it again and again until they destroy the whole Jewish state. So we need to make sure that if the world want to support so much the Arabs, let's encourage and help them financially to accept and to start a new life, much better life in other countries that are agree to accept them. And I can tell you that also in the Knesset in Israel, there is a very hard work, and there is many countries that already agreed to accept.
Yeah, I might just ask you guys to stop your screen sharing.
Excuse me, I forgot it.
So you mentioned before about Eviatar. So we had a written question. If you could comment on some of the opportunities for construction in Judea Samaria, because we know the Arabs have been taking over a lot of land, but during the war, perhaps some of the civil service have been in the reserves that are monitoring these things. So what's going on in Judea Samaria since October 7th?
First of all, I think you mentioned 2 points. You spoke about the land, the property itself, the land, and in general, the communities, Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria in the time of war, right?
And the Arab takeover. That there is, like you said, Robert, like you mentioned, that there is a very strong Arab building, illegal building, that they are trying to take over as much as they can from land that's supposed to be, even according to the Oslo Agreement. There is Oslo Agreement divided Judea and Samaria to 3 main
sections.
Section A, B, and C. A, it's 18%, and it's supposed to be under the Palestinian Authority control and military, and also all the civil administration. And B is another 22%, which under the security issues is under Israel, but all the civil is under the Palestinian Authority. But 60% of Judea and Samaria, even according to Oslo Agreement, supposed to stay Jewish. Now the Arabs and the Palestinian Authority, they realized that they said, we will learn from the Jews, like the Jews did in 1948. What we did, we create facts on the ground, right, all over Israel, not in Judea and Samaria, not in Judah and Shomron, all over Israel, in the Negev, in the Galilee, and we actually create a Jewish state by facto, by the fact on the ground. And after this, Ben-Gurion had the courage to declare. And the Palestinian Authority, this is what they're saying loudly. They're saying it now. We will do exactly what the Jewish nation did. We will take control on land, and we will establish and create a Palestinian state, facts on the ground. And they are building illegally, without permission, investing money that they are getting from the UN against the law, and building and taking over on land that's supposed to be Jewish. And this is something that we are fighting against it. There is 2 main way to fight against it. One is to try to prevent them and to stop them, which we know it's very hard to do. There is different trying to prevent them, but we know that the world see it in the press, and there is a lot of pressure. But the other option to prevent them to do it is through what we are doing. It's through establishing and building new communities. And immediately when we are coming and building new communities, Jewish communities that are actually creating connection between existing Jewish communities and preventing from the Arabs to create Arab continuation between their villages. So this is the most successful way to actually prevent from them to take over illegally on our homeland. So this is one of the things that we are doing, like you mentioned, Eviatar. Eviatar, for example, it's in the heart of the Shomron, and it's sitting on the main junction that actually create all the center of Israel, Kfar Saba, Tel Aviv, Ra'anana, to the Jordan Valley. It's the main vein, that connection between these two sides of Israel. Now, Eviatar actually helping the army, and the army is very happy after we established this community. Suddenly, the army have control on all of this main road, and in Chas v'Chalila, there will be a war from Jordan, so the army will be able to drive on this road safely because we have Jewish communities. I will give you example for this. In the north, the army, when they are preparing different option for a war, one of the things that they are saying it, and it's already publicized in Israel, that roads that they don't have Jewish communities on the road and only Bedouin or Arab villages, like Wadi Ara, exactly, they will not be able to drive in time of a war to bring weapons and food, and they look on those roads like Wadi Ara that it's not exist for them because it's too dangerous. So we know that in every road that we have Jewish communities, that road is safe. And in a road that we don't have, so the road became dangerous. And this is why this is the right solution. Also in Yehuda and Shomron, our communities that are in the front line, deep in the area, but actually protecting and making the road safe and the life there in those places much safer.
I think that's all we're going to have time for. So I know we've got a lot of people with their hands raised, a lot of eager people to ask questions, but definitely next time we'll be able to get to you. So thank you so much, Daniella and Lital. Always a pleasure to speak to Nachala. How can people keep up to date with the work you're doing?
So here you in this you have our email here in the flyer and the phone number. If you can email us, we can add you to our newsletter list, and like we invite you to participate in our missions and different webinars. So yeah, we will be more than happy.
So you mean currently through the news?
Yeah, you have our email here, and you can sign up and ask that we can add you to our list, and we will be happy to chat and update you on what's going on in the deep of the mountains and of the Shomron, and of course in all what we're doing in the Gaza Strip. And I do want to say thank you again to the AJA and David Adler, of course, a good friend, that you are doing an amazing job here, because it's so important that we as a nation will be united now and bringing a clear voice that's supporting in Israel and supporting the basic understanding that we build our only state, and we will keep it Jewish, we will keep it strong, we will keep it safe. And each and every one of you that joined to the AJA and showing their support in Australia is something that's so important and strengthen us here in Israel. And we all the time feel, and this was giving us the courage, because we know that we are one nation, and each and every one of us doing his share and his part, and together it actually can create our future safe. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you both. And thank you to everyone for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure. And hope to see you in the mission, or when you're coming to visit in Israel, please be in touch with us.
And Chag Sameach to everybody there too.
Yeah.
Chag Sameach.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.